moment. We're filming the tour today. I need this for my promotional content. So give me a moment here. I'm gonna do a clap to start off.
All right, sounds good.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully that works. I actually don't know anything about video production, so a very async video is what might come out of it. Let's come this way a little bit. I'm going to introduce the tour. I'm going to introduce myself, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So one thing about this tour is, as soon as I start the tour, I'm going to choose a different starting time next year. But as soon as I start the tour, the woman who works at the convenience store starts setting up that store, and she starts blasting 90s R&B, which is something I have to compete with when I start this tour. I'm going to start at 10 o'clock next year, but we'll get that happening. Okay, introducing myself. I am John. I am a Houston native. You can tell from the cowboy hat, of course. I lived for many years in Europe, and I did a lot of walking tours when I was out there, and I really enjoyed the walking tours I did in Europe, so I'm really glad to be able to bring that sort of concept of this free European-style walking tour back to my hometown of Houston. Now, Houston is a famously unwalkable city, but I think there's some really cool things that I can show you around downtown. On the tour today, we're going to talk about a lot of the landmarks and famous buildings of downtown Houston. We're also going to cover the history of Houston and Texas. Do we have any Texas or Houston natives here on our tour? Okay, good. But yeah, good. Flashback to subsequent history. And I'm also going to talk to you about some really cool stuff, which is the new street art and murals that have come up over the last few years, recently around downtown Houston. The tour is going to be a little bit under 2 hours. I think, well, about 2 hours. So we're going to finish between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. Our end point is going to be about 3 blocks from here, so it's very easy for you to get back from where we finished at to where you started and then go on with the rest of your day, enjoy the 90-degree heat here on a May Sunday. We're going to have a break about halfway through, so you will have a chance to go to the bathroom, buy a cold drink, or get some coffee if you need to at our break slot. The walking of this tour it's a Texas-sized tour. What I mean by that, there is very little walking involved. It's only a mile and a half of walking, so it's a very relaxed pace. I think it's very easy to do this one. I'm going to be workshopping some new jokes this weekend. Some of them may fall flat. Just roll with it, guys. Just roll with it. I think without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This way. I think it's just for show, to be honest. Oh, we can cross. Go ahead, guys. We're good. I'm gonna run my tour. out in the sun for a little bit. I try to get you stopped with shade, but I obviously have to stop here because this is one of the most photographed and Instagrammed walls here in the city of Houston. This is our Houston is Inspired mural. Now most street art, a lot of murals, they don't last that long because the paint fades after a few years, or maybe the business owner or the city wants to replace it with something else. This piece of street art, this mural is fairly long-lived by mural standards. It's been with us for about 13 years since 2012. And the reason for that is it's been maintained and restored by the city over time, repainted a couple of times, because it is a symbol of the city and because it's become a popular place for people to take social media photos, obviously. The man behind the piece, the artist, is a guy named Gonzo247. Obviously, that is not his real name. You can't put numbers into your birth name on your birth certificate. The author of this piece, his real name is Mario Figueroa, and he's a Houston native. He grew up in the eastern part of Houston, an area that's now called Edo, or east of downtown area. Now, back when Figueroa was a kid, that was sort of the poorer, more industrial side of the city. It's not like that today. Probably nowadays the east side is the most happening part of Houston. It's where all the new hipster cafes, bars, co-working spaces, art galleries, and of course condos are coming up. Highly recommend checking out that area if you're newer to Houston. But again, back in the 70s when Figueroa was a kid, it's the wrong side of the tracks in a way because it's in this other side of the highway. Figueroa says that when he was walking to school every day as a kid, he would pass by this big mural on the east side called Birth of the Mexican People, by this Chicano artist named Leo Tanguro, and it represents the Mexican people sort of rising from the mix of the Spanish conquistadors and the Native Americans of North America. Part of this broader Chicano mural movement, which is downstream of the culture of murals that comes from Mexico, associated with artists like Diego Rivera. But anyway, passing by this mural every day as a kid is what inspired Figueroa to become an artist. And in the late 80s and early 90s, he became a graffiti artist, got in the graffiti scene here in downtown Houston, and was the head of a collective called Aerosol Warfare. In the 2010s, he started breaking through and getting mainstream success, started being taken seriously as a real artist, and started getting commissions like this one. You'll see a lot of his work around the city. And what's really cool now is that he has a really big name for himself and does a lot of paintings, not only on murals, not only on buildings, but for private collectors. So his paintings sell for thousands of dollars. If you go to his website or his Instagram, you can see that he sells this stuff. And he's doing very, very well for himself now. He sells graffiti-style cowboy hats for hundreds of dollars. Those are kind of a cool Houston memento as well. Not paying me to say that, by the way. About 6 years ago, Figueroa was commissioned by the city to restore a big mural in the city of Houston. Can you want to guess what mural he was asked to restore? Not this one. He probably comes back and repaints this over time. It's an older one than that. It's actually Birth of Mexican People, the very mural he used to walk by in the 70s as a kid. So he actually was asked by the city to repaint that mural. He got to work alongside the original muralist, Leo Tangura, who was 70 at this time. So it's kind of like working alongside your childhood hero. Anyway, I think that's sort of a nice story of like being inspired as a kid, following your dreams, and then having those dreams come full circle. I'm going to give you guys a moment to take some photos here if you'd like, and then I'm going to meet you at that corner over there. We're going to cross over to Market Square Park. Post your photo to Gonzo247 and you tag him in your photo on Instagram, he is very likely to respond. So that's what happened to my other photo. Let's go and cross. really cool things. You can see a few more things than what I cover on walking, but we do a little bit of overlap. All right, I'm going to try to compete with this guy. Let me try to go electric. See what happens. Hello. Is this better? Okay. All right. I'll do really quickly here on this one electric. So we're standing in Market Square Park. This is the original location of the original market of the city of Houston back when it was a Roman temple frontier town in the 1800s. That's why it's called Market Square Park. Now, Houston was founded in 1836 by two brothers, John and Augustus Allen, who came here from New York City, bought up a bunch of land and decided we're just going to build a city here. Obviously, that's something that doesn't happen nowadays, but back in the 1800s, Texas was very empty. You could just buy land and found new cities back at that time. The land that the Allen brothers bought cost them $5,000 in 1836 money. That's $200,000 in 2025 dollars. Prior to the pandemic, you used to be able to buy a house in Houston, out in Pearland or somewhere, for about $200,000. Obviously, nowadays you cannot buy even a single house, like a tiny house, for that much money in the city of Houston. The Allen brothers had two ideas for the city when they founded the city in 1836. One, they wanted to be a commercial city, very well situated for that because it lies on the confluence of two rivers, Buffalo Bayou and White Oak Bayou, that both meet about 2 blocks over in that direction. And those rivers communicate between the interior of Texas and the rest of the world because they flow from the interior of Texas to the Gulf of Mexico. And Houston provides a really good staging ground for that commerce. The other idea that the Allen brothers had was they wanted this city to be the capital of the new Republic of Texas. Texas had just gained its independence in 1836, and they were looking for a capital city. The Allen brothers named the city Houston, hoping to boost its candidacy as the capital of the Republic of Texas. Houston's named after Sam Houston, the general who won the Texas War of Independence, and the first president of the Republic of Texas. So kind of like how the capital of the United States is named after George Washington. They're thinking, well, we named the city after Houston, we get it named capital. They were successful. Houston was, they lobbied the right politicians because Houston was named the capital of the Republic of Texas. Now my question to you guys is, where's the capital of the state of Texas? Austin, yes, of course. So what happened was Houston only served as the capital for 3 years, between 1836 and 1839. And then in 1839, the capital, unfortunately, was moved to Austin. I'll talk about why that happened at our next note.
Share anymore.
It's hard. It is hard. It's hard to put them somewhere. It's hard to take them and put them somewhere, I think. But actually, a lot of businesses do not have outdoor areas for that reason, because people will take the chairs.
Okay.
But because this is a public area, it's funded by the city, so they can afford to buy new chairs and everything. But actually, I think we're kind of on the missing side when it comes to having outdoor sitting spaces, because we actually don't have that much when it comes to businesses.
So just because it's so hot.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. Yeah, I mean, you can only sit outside like half the year, and then, yeah, I think businesses don't want to deal with having outdoor seating. Anyway, we are in the historical district of downtown Houston. Now, I'm not going to lie, Houston is not a very historical city. Most of it was built after the 1950s, but if you're still looking for some of these older buildings that date from the frontier times of the 1800s, you're going to find them in this small area around downtown Houston. Still some older buildings here. What's the oldest building you can see on the street in front of you guys? Yes, right here. The La Carafe building. It's not a trick question. That is the oldest building on the street. Not only is it the oldest building on the street, it's the oldest building in the city of Houston, built in 1845, just 9 years after the city of Houston was founded. Today, it is a wine bar. It's called La Carafe. It's been functioning as a bar for the last 100 years. But when it was built in 1845, it was originally built as a bakery by an Irish immigrant named John Kennedy. No relationship to the American president. You can tell that it's been restored and renovated, but it has the original brick and bones of the building because the building looks very beat up, and you can see that sagging a little bit to the right. It's actually leaning a little bit to the right. This building is supposedly haunted. I went on a haunted walking tour about 2 months ago, paid $35 for it, and I heard the story of who haunts this tour, who haunts this building. So supposedly it used to be a brothel, and one of the madams pushed a girl who worked there down the stairs, and that girl obviously haunts this building. So what I very naively lifted my hand during this tour, and I asked, wait, I thought this place was a bakery. The tour guide said to me, oh yeah, it was a bakery downstairs and a brothel upstairs. And after he said that, I was less inclined to believe his ghost stories. Anyway, I want to talk about why the capital of Texas moved from Houston to Austin. In 1839, the second president of the Republic of Texas, a guy by the name of Mirabeau Lamar, decided to move the capital of Texas about 120 miles inland to the town of Waterloo, renamed Waterloo to Austin, and made that city the capital. His goal in doing that was to develop the interior of Texas. He didn't want Texas to be a republic where all the cities were on the eastern part of the territory. Does anyone know who the third president of the Republic of Texas was? I'll give you guys a hint. You have all heard of this man's name. I guarantee you that there is not one person here who has not heard this man's name at least. Third president. Any guess? What? Come on, Texas represent here. The third president of the Republic of Texas was actually Sam Houston for his second term. Trick question there, but you guys all knew his name. He was kind of like Donald Trump. He was in office for a term, out of office for a term, and then came back for a second term. What do you guess was his first order of business when he came back to the presidency? Yes, he wanted to move the capital back from Austin to Houston. Was unsuccessful in its attempt. That was the first thing he tried to do when he was president. And that's why when Texas was annexed by the United States in 1845, Austin became the capital of the state of Texas and remains the capital today. Let's keep going. the original purpose of this building when it was built in 1800s. Market? That's good guess. You're saying a bar? It's a bar today.
No, barn.
A barn? Oh, barn. A barn. Oh, that's, oh yeah. It's very close to a barn, actually. Any other guesses? No? A cotton place? Like a cotton trade? Yeah. Actually, no. It was a saloon when it was first built. So, in a sense, through various owners, this is the longest continually running bar / saloon in the city of Houston. Today, it is a bar called Angel Share. Does anyone know what the term Angel Share means in distillery? Okay, I'll talk about that in just a moment. This is actually a charity bar or a non-profit bar. What does that mean? After they pay their employees, all the profits of the bar go to different charities and non-profits around the city of Houston. What happens is when you order a drink at this bar, you get a token, and you can use that token to vote on different charities that are described inside of the bar. Angel Share is a pun on the owner's name. The owner is named Lisa Angel, but it's also a term of distillery. So Angel Share is when you make the whiskey, you get this much in the barrel, right? But actually, this much is actually what you end up with like a week or a month later, and that's because the alcoholic vapor evaporates. And that's the part that the angels had drunk up. So it's called the Angel Share of the whiskey. So it's a pun both on the owner's name and that sort of distillery name. Unique place opens at 4. Let's keep going this way.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, of course. So I've had two Europeans describe downtown Houston to me independently as looking like a zombie apocalypse place. And I totally get it. So a lot of outsiders, when they come to downtown Houston, are very surprised by how empty downtown Houston is. Obviously, since the 1950s, since the highways and suburbanization, downtown has not been the center of gravity for commerce and social movement in the city, but it used to be. So this is the main street of downtown Houston. Prior to the building of the highways and flight to the suburbs, this was the busiest street in the city. Its heyday was the 1920s and 1930s and so on. You'd have the sidewalks filled with people, the streets filled with cars, and we actually had different tram lines running around downtown Houston back at the beginning of the 20th century. Obviously, all that stuff goes away with the invention of the automobile and the highways. But we still see some really beautiful remnants of that heyday in the architecture of the facades of these buildings. If you look at the facade on your left here, the Keon building on your left was built in 1899. That was a famous department store. It was very active in the 1920s and 30s. The building is abandoned today. The place is pretty much empty. a tenant moves in and puts a restaurant there or something. We also have this building here, the home of Easy Credit. That's Dean's Clothing Store. The first electric elevator in the city of Houston exists in that building. And the reason why Dean's Clothing Store is considered to be the home of Easy Credit is that in the 1920s, this was the only place where women could buy clothes on credit without permission from their husbands. Yeah. So progressive by 1920s and 30s standards. Today, a lot of these facades are now, a lot of these buildings are now bars and restaurants. I'll talk about them in just a moment after this tram passes. Built in 2002. Remember when I was a kid when this was being built, and everyone hated it. Everyone was against it because they're like, no one's going to use the tram. And I felt that same way. Like I was like, no one's going to use that tram. And I'm going to be honest, we were right. Not very many people use this tram. But I really believe in urbanization and sort of like building this infrastructure to support urban spaces. Like my hope is that as downtown develops, that more people start to use that tram. It becomes a bigger part of the mobility here in Houston, which is very hard to handle. Anyway, there are some cool bars along this facade. I'm going to point out one bar. I'm going to ask you guys to help me point out one bar. So there is one secret speakeasy bar along this facade. It's a bar that's not listed as a bar, but you go inside, you do a secret knock, and you go into like one of the coolest bars downtown Houston. Can anyone guess what that building, what that facade might be for this bar? 306. Oh, this red door. Oh, yeah. No, that's not it. That's a really good guess, though. Actually, I like that. That actually looks like a real speakeasy bar. No, it's a black building with the two red disco balls hanging up top. It says Ira Guy, attorney at law, in that building. If you go in that building, you go up the stairs. You will not find the law offices of Ira Guy. You will find a bar, a speakeasy bar called Captain Foxheart's Bad News Club. I have a friend who used to live downtown. That's his favorite bar in downtown Houston. It's a unique experience and very reasonable prices for cocktails and drinks. So that's my tip for downtown Houston. If you're staying here after 4 o'clock. There's actually not a secret knowledge. You just go in, honestly. They're not trying that hard to be, to do the speakeasy thing. Let's keep going this way. Built in 1910, still functions as a courthouse today. Obviously, millions of dollars were spent on the construction of this courthouse. It's beautiful Corinthian columns in front of the building. And the granite is the base of the building, and the pink granite was quarried from Central Texas, just west of Austin. A lot of years just used at the base of the building. The brick on the exterior doesn't look like it's over 100 years old. It's restored, but it is a building was built in 1910. Obviously, by 1910, Houston has become a very wealthy city. It's really between 1900 and 1910 that this has been created because the population of Houston by 1910 it has doubled in a 10-year period to 80,000. Now there's two events, not one, but two events that caused Houston to become really wealthy and to grow in size a lot, be able to afford buildings like this that happened between 1900 and 1910. Does anyone know what those events are? Yes, this guy, yes. There we go. The Great Hurricane of Galveston of 1900 basically wipes out Galveston. And what happened was Galveston used to be the richest city in Texas. For most of Texas history, Galveston was the wealthiest city in Texas because it's the port of Texas. The Galveston hurricane wipes out the city, killed 20% of the population. And then the developers and business people decide, well, we should build in this area that gets all these hurricanes. So let's go a little bit further inland. Yes, exactly. Let's go to a different place that gets lots of hurricanes. They go to Houston. As we learned in hurricanes like Harvey and Beryl last year, only marginally safer from hurricanes, Houston, but it becomes the port of Texas. Another big thing happens that makes Texas very wealthy, or Houston very wealthy. What's that happens? Oil, yes. Oil discovered in 1901 in the Spindletop oil field at Beaumont, Texas. It's about 60 miles east of here. But the biggest oil field discovered to that time, up to that time. And someone has a bright idea in 1901 of building a pipeline from Beaumont, the 60 miles down to Houston. That's the dawn of the oil age in Houston, which we're still living in, of course. I want to talk about another great Texan, another important Texan, I should say. If Houston is named after Sam Houston, who was the city of Austin named after? Stephen F. Austin, that's right. Stephen F. Austin is considered to be the father of Texas. He was never president of the Republic of Texas. He was actually more important than president because he was considered to be the founder of the Anglo colony in Texas. He was an impresario who was invited by the Mexican government to build a colony here in Texas in the 1820s. So what happened was, in 1821, Mexico had just gained its independence from Spain, and they wanted to colonize this empty territory of Texas with both Mexican and American settlers. They got Stephen F. Austin to bring 300 American families here in 1821, built the largest and oldest colony of Americans here in Texas. Now, if you were invited from in the 1820s to come and settle Texas from the United States, you had to follow 3 provisos set by the Mexican government. 1, you had to learn Spanish, makes sense. Mexico is a Spanish-speaking country. 2, you had to convert to Catholicism, also makes sense. Spain and Mexico were both Roman Catholic countries. And 3, after slavery was outlawed in Mexico, you were no longer allowed to practice slavery inside of or bring slaves into the territory of Texas. Now, obviously, the English settlers ended up following none of these provisos, which leads to conflicts between them and Mexico. Let's keep going.
Apart from hurricanes, are there any other do they just kind of pop up wherever in the state, or is there like a tornado alley or something like that that usually happens?
I think they're a little bit more, in the state, I think they're a little bit more common in Dallas.
Okay.
Like closer to like,
Yeah, like
traditional
just like,
tornado.
yeah.
We still get those in like water spouts in Galveston, like little tornadoes.
You get earthquakes here?
No. going to see a lot of street art. So about not that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, the city began a campaign to beautify downtown by inviting street artists and muralists from all around the world to come and paint in our buildings. This campaign is called Big Art, Bigger Change. And every few months, like every 6 months, they invite more artists to do new murals around downtown. So we had them continually coming up and putting up murals all around downtown. It takes a long time to explore them because there's so many of them. There's now nearly 4 dozen of them scattered around downtown. But if you want to find a map of how to find these, you can just Google Big Art, Bigger Change, and you'll find a map on our city's website. I'll talk about some of these murals. We only cover like 20-25% of the murals. I'll talk about each of the ones that we see on this tour. The piece in front of you guys, this one is called Healthy Aging. Obviously portrays a grandfather playing with his granddaughter. It's by a Latvian artist named Ernest Akarovich. One of the hallmarks of his style is that he likes to incorporate the elements of the building that he's working into the painting itself. So the seesaw that the grandfather and the girl are playing on, that's actually formed by the rain gutter and pipe that runs diagonally across the building. Over here on your left, on the Sam Houston Hotel, just to be clear, that's not a picture of Sam Houston. Sam Houston's an old white guy. This is very clearly a Native American man who's also a janitor. This one is by an Australian artist named Slug. He's kind of does this like hyper-realistic style. If you see others of his paintings, they're all like kind of done this hyper-real mode. But this one is called Resilience. It's dedicated to the essential workers who worked during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, many of us got to work from home. Some of us got laid off, but at least we got to collect unemployment. But others had to continue going into work to keep the world running. Essential workers, janitors, nurses, and the like. And this piece is dedicated to those people. If you look further back, we have a really colorful piece, and we're going to get a closer look at that one. Let's keep going this way.
Which one's your favorite one?
I think the one over there is the mural. The most beautiful one. Then I'll talk about one that's So as I said, in 1821, the colonization of Texas begins by American settlers. 5 years later, in 1826, the Mexican government decided to conduct an investigation to see, well, how is the settlement of Texas proceeding? So what they do, they sent a general named Manuel Terán from Mexico City up to Texas, asked him to do a tour of the cities and colonies of Texas and report back to the Mexican government on what he saw on his tour. So Terán travels to Texas and he's greatly disturbed by what he sees. What does he see by 1826? Well, he sees that, for one thing, no one has learned Spanish. None of the English settlers have learned Spanish. No one's going to Latin Mass. They haven't converted to Catholicism. Slavery is being practiced in the territory of Texas. And then, most alarmingly to Terán, American settlers are coming into Texas without registering with the Mexican government. And he knows that if this continues, Mexico will lose Texas to the Americans. So when he comes back to Mexico City and he writes his report to the Mexican government, he makes one major recommendation. What does he say? He says, we need to build a wall between the United States and Mexico. No, I'm kidding. He says we need to ban Americans from coming into Texas. So what happens in 1826, the Mexican government passes a law that bans Americans from coming in as settlers into Texas. Now, just as today, and actually more so in the 1820s, the border of Texas is very long. It's actually longer in the 1820s because Texas has a different shape and it's the northern side of the dark border. So what happens? American settlers are able to cross that border very easily, sneak past, the non-existent Mexican garrisons patrolling the border, and they continue to enter Texas without permission from the Mexican government, coming in as illegal settlers into this territory. Let's keep going.
Are there English immigrants, white people?
No, they are American citizens. So they're American citizens, and there are a variety of different ethnicities. So they could be English, German, Scottish, but yeah, they're from the United States.
You have a United States passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we became a country in some of the countries. This was not. So they were
Right. So unlike some of the other paintings that you've seen so far, this one isn't by an artist that was flown in. This is by a local Houstonian artist. His name is Bimbo Adegnuba. One of the nice things about having a local artist do the piece is that if anything happens to the mural, he can come and fix it up. So about a year and a half ago, someone had graffitied on this mural, defaced it, and Bimbo heard about this. He drove from his house here in Houston downtown with some painting materials, and he spent the afternoon covering up the graffiti. So that's really cool to have a local artist who can just fix things right away if anything happens. This piece is called Legacy. Obviously, it portrays a Native American woman sort of connecting with her heritage. Now, Bimbo has put a lot of prominent symbolism in this piece. You can see the scales of justice on the right-hand side. You can see the very prominently placed red apple and glass of water on the left face of his painting. But there's one very prominent symbol here that represents Texas in this painting. Can you tell me where Texas is represented in the painting? Yes, the bouquet of yellow roses behind the woman's head. So for people who weren't from Texas, you might have heard this phrase, the yellow rose of Texas. You might vaguely be aware that it's associated with a Texan folk song. But the yellow rose of Texas, to be clear, is not a rose. The yellow rose of Texas is not botanical, not horticultural, not floral. Not any of those. The yellow rose of Texas is actually a person. It refers to a historical figure, a mixed-race black woman named Emily Morgan, who was captured by the Mexican army during the Texan War of Independence. Now, the rumor goes that Emily Morgan, after she was captured by the army, became General Santa Anna's lover and mistress, and that she kept the general occupied for several hours the night before the Battle of San Jacinto, which was why the general was tired on the morning of the battle, and why subsequently the Mexicans lost that battle and thus lost the war against the Texans. Now, obviously, there's no historical evidence that is true, but that's a long-standing Texas folk legend. We learned about that in 7th grade history. That was an awkward conversation with my Texas history teacher. And to give you an idea of how prominent this legend was, about 10 years ago, the History Channel made a TV series about the Texan War of Independence. This was not a documentary. History Channel has not made documentaries for many decades now. This was actually a fictional TV show, and in this TV show, Emily Morgan is a character. Not only is she a character in this show, she is indeed portrayed as being General Santa Anna's lover and mistress in the show. Not only that, she's also a spy working under General Sam Houston for the Texan Republican Army. In the penultimate episode of this show, Emily Morgan has to make a fateful decision between her loyalty to her lover Santa Anna and her loyalty to the Republic of Texas. I'm not going to spoil to you which one she chooses, but if you're interested in finding out for yourselves, you can go on YouTube and type in Texas Rising, and someone has bootlegged and copied all the episodes of the show on YouTube, so you can watch all the episodes for free on YouTube. You can pay for it as well, but you can also find them for free. I will warn you though, this show, if you choose to watch it, was universally panned both by television critics, of course, and by Texas history professors, obviously, if you're going this way.
What does the apple and water represent?
So, according to there's a page for social justice. So, you have the scales of justice on the right, and the water and is meant to represent water security, and then the apple's meant to represent food security. Complex.
You see
about Vigny as a street artist is that she always paints the same subject. It's always going to be the Vigny girl. What changes from building to building, from wall to wall, from painting to painting, is the hair of the Vigny girl. So sometimes it's a natural afro, sometimes it's an afro that's made out of leaves, sometimes it's an afro that's made out of vines, maybe ocean waves, maybe bubbles, maybe just splotches of color. And then here, in this piece, obviously sort of stressful online messages. The title of this piece is Digital Citizen. Obviously, it's about the stresses of online life for adolescent girls. If you look at Vigny's Instagram, it's Vigny Graffiti. I actually checked this out about a month ago. Her 3 most recent posts have been about her process of painting this piece. So even though she's been with us for a couple of years, she had some recent posts that showed the in-progress process of painting this piece. So if you're interested in seeing how these paintings are made, check out her Instagram. Let's keep going. Well, I guess there's not a lot of newer construction right now. I don't know. I feel like if people are building, well, I'll say this: downtown Houston, we have one of the highest office vacancies in the country, and I think if people are going to build offices and stuff like that, they're probably going to go a little bit further out, like out to the Loop and a little bit more like in the suburban or edges of the city. I see some construction. You go to Austin. That place is booming. Anyway, I stopped here, not for this hotel, but for the flag that is above us. Can anyone see what it says on the white flag above us? I'm going to take it. Yeah. So that is one of the battle flags of the Texan War of Independence, and it is one of the memes of Texas. So you'll probably see this on like bumper stickers, sometimes on T-shirts. Also, you might see the cannon replaced with like a taco or something, because it's like a very prominent meme here in Texas. But obviously, it's a reference to the first battle of the Texan War of Independence, which is the Battle of Gonzales. So when Texas was becoming, looked like there was going to be friction between the American settlers and the Mexican authorities. The Mexican army went around Texas trying to take back and seize weapons that they had loaned out to the Texan farmers. In the town of Gonzales, which is between Austin and Houston, they went to this group of farmers that they loaned a cannon to. The farmers were using it to fight Comanche Indians. And they said, we want to have our cannon back. And the response from the farmers was like, us, of course, come and take it. A symbol of defiance during the Texan War of Independence. And if you go to the town of Gonzales, you can actually see the actual historical cannon that's represented in this flag. And if you go there, has anyone been to Gonzales and seen this cannon? You go there, we'll see that the cannon is comically small. It's like this big. So it's literally not much bigger than a Subway sandwich. I had someone quip to me, one of my tour guests said to me, so it's true that not everything is bigger in Texas? And I was like, yes, that is 100% true. This is marketing. This cannon is not very big at all, and it gives you an idea of kind of the stakes that are involved in the Texan War of Independence. Let's keep going this way. Spanish artist named Lula Gose. And Gose's message here is that this female scientist and these traditional shamans, they both represent the same archetype, right? The same shamana archetype. Over here on your left, you have a piece by a German artist named Case McLean. Now Case, he's a pretty big name in street art. When he got his commission to do a painting in downtown Houston, he didn't know what he was going to paint. So he actually traveled to Houston, was here for about a week, and just went around photographing different parts of Houston. He was walking around the third floor and he saw this little kid on a bicycle, and he said, well, hey, there's something about this kid, and he asked the kid to stop in front of him, pose for a picture, and that photograph became this mural. I think it's a really cool piece, and it sort of resonates with me personally because when I was a kid, I used to ride around my neighborhood on a bicycle, and I think that this idea that people have of what a Houstonian looks like is very much sort of from television. It's the cowboy hats and cowboy boots, but I think this is more representative of what Houston means to me. Anyway, let's keep going. So behind me is one of the landmarks of downtown Houston, the Rice Hotel building. Now, this building was built in 1913 and was for many decades the most luxurious and prominent hotel in downtown Houston. This is where Kennedy stayed the night before he flew to Dallas. So yes, last good night's rest was in this building, one of the rooms in this hotel. Yes. It was built by a guy named William Marsh Rice, who is a cotton magnate and railroad magnate in Houston. He's associated with another major Houston institution. Does anyone know what the institution is? Rice University. Yeah, Rice University is about 4 miles down Main Street that way. Really beautiful campus. Even though it was built in the 20th century, it's a sort of old world, sort of Oxford or Cambridge kind of look. The architect who designed it in like an older style for university. That is one of, I would say it's probably the most prestigious university in Texas. When I was a senior in high school, that was actually my top place to apply to when I was a senior, and I applied to them and I got rejected, unfortunately, so I ended up going to UT instead. But about 2 months ago, I actually got an email out of the blue from the Rice University graduate student. They asked me to do a private tour for their grad students. I'm very glad that I got this message because I could go back to them and say, no, this time you're rejected, Rice. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, no, I took the job mostly because I needed the money. But no, it was really fun. I really enjoyed having those students on my tour. This building was renovated. It was sort of abandoned in the 1970s, went out of business, and then renovated in the 2000s to become a luxury service apartment complex. I actually met 2 people who had lived in this apartment complex. On my very first tour of downtown Houston, someone asked me, well, John, how much does it cost to rent an apartment in this building? I was like, I didn't know. I hadn't thought to look into it. I looked it up, and I actually checked again last week. So I'm going to ask you guys to guess, how much does it cost to rent an apartment in this building? I'll give you the parameters. Yes. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, monthly rent. Tell me what you think. 4,000, 4 grand? Yeah. What else are we thinking? 2,200? Okay.
I'll say 5,000.
5,000. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
10,000.
10,000. Okay. $10,000 or what?
Yeah.
Okay. 6,000. Actually, middle of downtown Houston, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms cost you $2,600 a month. You win that by Price is Right rules. So actually, very cheap to rent in downtown Houston. Obviously, a lot of people are moving to Houston nowadays because of the cost of housing is quite economical here. It remains fairly economical. Let's keep going.
What's the cost?
Yeah, of course.
I have 2 questions. Not about the rice.
Oh, yeah.
The story of the Lone Star.
Yes.
Go.
I don't know. I mean, it's from our flag. I don't know why we only have one star on the flag. I think it was designed by or a group of women who
Or like
So this building, this really Gothic-looking skyscraper, it's a big skyscraper. It's from the 1930s. It's a Gulf Oil Company building. I want to let you know this is not the tallest building in downtown Houston, but it used to be. Up until the 1970s, this was the tallest building here in downtown Houston. It almost doesn't look like a Houston building. That's partly because it wasn't designed for Houston. It was originally designed as the headquarters of the Chicago Tribune newspaper. The Tribune had, they commissioned this design, they didn't like it, they decided to go with a different design. The architect came down to Houston and sold his design here to the Gulf Oil Company and got it built here in Houston. When you're building in Houston, it's a little bit tricky because Houston, as you might have noticed, is a gigantic swamp, which means it's pretty far down before you get to bedrock. We actually don't build on bedrock. The way that we build skyscrapers, whether it's back to 1930s when this was built, or with these newer buildings, is we do what's called a floating foundation. So what happens, they have to take out of the ground a bunch of soil, enough mass to equal the weight of the skyscraper, and then the soil underneath that mass, it's used to having 200,000 tons of soil above it. It doesn't matter whether that tons is in soil or skyscraper, so that when they put the skyscraper onto that bottom soil, the soil doesn't feel any difference, and so the building doesn't settle or sink anymore. Every building that you see around you in downtown Houston is built on that principle. They do a bunch of excavation soil, they can fit the skyscraper on top of it. So all of these buildings around you are coming from gigantic holes out of the ground. Building in Houston, it is ipso facto the tallest in the state of Texas. Obviously, it was built in the 70s and then superseded the Gulf building. All right, sorry guys, we'll come on the street. I think that's very confusing. You know, language for this. Anyway, the sculpture. When it was built, the sculpture is by Joan Miró, the Spanish modernist artist, one of the last great giants of modernism, very famously known as being a contemporary Picasso, and sort of the last sort of person who was related to Picasso from that age of the early part of the 20th century. You know, when the oil executives said, we're going to build a sculpture, we want a sculpture in front of our building, they didn't know anything about art, so they got this search committee to find an artist to do the public art in front of the building. And they're like, just give us the biggest name you can find. That's how they got picked Miro, because obviously he's the biggest name around. In the 70s, when he got this commission, he was already in his 90s, so he could command a pretty big fee. He got paid a lot of money, basically a blank check. Now he asked the committee one question. He was like, "All right, well, thank you for all this money, but what do you want me to build for you guys?" And the search committee, knowing his reputation as an artist, they said this to him. They said, "Mr. Moreau, you can build whatever you want as long as it's not an anatomically correct male nude." And to his credit, this is what Mr. Moreau provided for him. Not an anatomically correct male nude. There you go. Anyway, let's go ahead and go across and we'll go to our break spot. Get in. We have doors, revolving doors, or other doors. Or doors. They've heard of the underground tunnel system here in downtown. I'll say this. I'm gonna grab here. I'm gonna grab a beer here.
Should I pass one?
Oh yeah, it's impossible.
Let's do a second.